Good evening, everybody. My name is Michelle Price. I'm Director of Education and Outreach for the State Fire Marshal's Office. I'd like to welcome you to the 2025 Rescue Squad Grant Application Workshop. We're going to go over the application tonight, tell you how you proceed through it for anybody that hasn't done this before. At any time, if you have any questions, if you will put them in the chat, we will try to answer them before the end of the webinar. So, I'd like to introduce Mary Beth Gribble. Mary Beth, if you could tell them a little bit about the history of the grant program.
Sure. And thank you. As Michelle said, I want to echo, thank you for joining us this evening. The Rescue Squad grant over the last few years, of course, from those who have been participating for several years are aware, we have continued to get much legislative attention, in particular about the unfunded needs. So, Michelle, our Rescue Squad grant follows our volunteer fire department equipment and training grant, and follows a very similar mindset that the legislature at the state level is looking to really invest in our first responders at the local level. I don't think that there's going to be any person in this room that disagrees in the fact that we have so many unfunded needs across the state that not only should it continue with this year, but we look for this to continue in years beyond this. And how we do that is the continued self-advocacy for each of us on this phone call. So I can tell you that every time we have an opportunity to have a valuable conversation with legislators, we're currently talking about our unfunded needs that we just had with our volunteer grant, which even after 10 million went out the door, over 29 million exist in unfunded needs. And that's the same that we want to take from this grant program. So everything that we're walking through tonight, in particular, if there are folks that you can encourage to make sure that they're making application, the unfunded needs from this particular grant program really speaks to people, because it's easy for us in our position to create a story that's absolutely accurate, which is our rescue squads across the state need necessary equipment to be able to do this. It's not wants, it's true needs. So just want to say that for this entire group and for the future that may be watching this, appreciate the self-advocacy at the local level as we continue to go through our grant application tonight. Your participation allows this grant program to continue in the future. So just want to say a huge thank you for those who have joined us. Michelle, I turn it back.
Thank you, Mary Beth. Team, I'm going to take you through this application from how you would go into it initially. Okay. Can you see my shared screen?
Yes, Michelle.
Okay, thank you. Okay, to get to the application, if you go Tennessee or tn.gov/fire, this will take you to the State Fire Marshal's Office homepage. In the middle of the page is fire departments, and under it, the bottom thing is grant opportunities. The middle option is state grants, and the bottom one covers the entire Rescue Squad grant program. This will be a link to the application. I'm going to tell you exactly what all you have here first so that you can refer back to this. This is a step-by-step registration guide. So if you forget what we go over tonight, you'll be able to do one of two things. You can come here and click on this and go straight to follow it, or we are recording this webinar and we will post a copy of the video on this grant's webpage, and you'll be able to watch it, scroll back and forward to whatever part you have trouble with. This is a blank W-9 form. your Edison Supplier ID. Kimberly will be going over all of that. The webinar will be posted right here, along with the rules, frequently asked questions. This is something new that we have added this year. This is our missions and incident numbers, and I will show you where that comes in. This is where you find the numbers for your Category 1 type missions. And these are the numbers that we got for fire departments from INFRS, and for rescue squads, we got these numbers that you had reported to TARS. So please use those numbers. You click on that link, it takes you to the grants website. If you've never applied before, you click here. If you did an application last year, you can just go ahead and put in your email address with your password. If you don't remember your password after a year, click on Forgot Password. It will send an email to your email that is in the account. But for a new application, you have to say whether you're a government user or a nonprofit. Putting in nonprofit, the first thing you do is, if you are a returning user or somebody else, you have already done this, you would click on Return User and log in. Otherwise, you click on Organization Name. I'm going to show you, as an example, if I started to type in Jefferson, it pulls up Jefferson County Rescue Squad, and I would click on that. If you start to type it and your organization does not appear in there, then you would type it in. If nothing comes up, you click this button here to add it. The second thing you do is you click the types of organizations you represent. If you are strictly a rescue squad, you click that. If you are a volunteer fire department or a career fire department, you also can click this, but make sure that you click Rescue Squad so that you can see the application. This is where you put in your federal ID number. You say whether you're a government entity or not. If you're a nonprofit, you are definitely not a government entity. You put in your address. Your city. Your state, of course, is going to be Tennessee. And your zip code. It requires a phone number and an email. I made this email this afternoon as a test for this grant. So, well, okay. Let me make that a little bigger. Is that easier for everybody to see? Okay. For entity type, you put whether you are a 501c3 or a nonprofit. If you are in the nonprofit category, you have to put your title. If you're the chief or if you're the captain, you put in a name and you put in your email. and you have to click that you are not a robot. Unfortunately, no AI applications are eligible. So when you do that, it will give you an email that they're sending you a link to your password and login. You go to your email, and within just a matter of seconds, you should get an email from srgmgrants.noreply. And when you click on that, it says, "Welcome to the system." It gives you your username, which will be your email, and tells the, if you click on the activation link, you can set up your password. And they have to match. And you hit submit. Occasionally you will get this. Sometimes when you hit "I'm not a robot," it doesn't pull up that reCAPTCHA thing, and you just have to do it again. And occasionally it is difficult. We will try this one more time. Actually, while I am getting into the account, Kimberly, would you like to go over how to get their Edison ID and how to do the W-9?
Sure can.
Thank you.
Okay. While Michelle's doing that, I'm going to steal the screen share and I'm going to walk you through. So as part of the application process, you will need to submit a W-9. Even if you applied last year and submitted a W-9 as part of the application process, we ask that you submit a new W-9 each year. One item of particular note, as I share my screen, is the fact that the form did change in 2024. So please be sure you are using the most recent form, and you can make sure you're doing that by going to the website Michelle showed you. We have a link to a blank W-9 there. If you are getting it off the internet, just make sure you're grabbing the revision of March 2024 when you go to complete it, because the boxes change just ever so slightly. And we want to make sure if we do need to submit that, and you do submit it through Edison, that it will be accepted by supplier maintenance. So please just make sure you're getting that the correct version. So I'm going to go through and I'm going to talk about each of the boxes and what is needed. And there are several boxes on here that you will not have to fill out, and I will note those for you. So starting off, box number 1. So this is going to be the name of the rescue squad or the city government or the county government that you are associated with. And the big key with the W-9 is who is going to be receiving the funds. So if the rescue squad itself is going to be receiving the funds directly, then this would be the name of the rescue squad. If you're associated with a city or county government and they are going to receive the funds on your behalf, this will need to be completed and filled out by that city or county government with their information. Box 2 will be left blank. Box 3, this is going to be your U.S. federal tax classification. Many times this is going to be other, and it is going to be nonprofit, 501c3, 501c4, or government. Now, I know there is a chance that there are some rescue squads that are incorporated and it may be an LLC. If you are an LLC, you will check the LLC box, and this is part of where it is different from prior years, but you will then have to say if you are a C corporation, an S corporation, unlikely, but if you were a partnership, you would put P for partnership next to LLC. Please make sure you're filling out LLC completely because it is a two-step process. So moving on down, box 4, you will not need to complete any of those fields. It will be left blank. Box, also 3B will not need to be completed. Box 5 and box 6 are going to be the remittance address, and you will see that terminology translated into Smart Simple. The remittance address that you enter in Smart Simple should match the remittance address that is on your W-9. And this is the remittance address is going to be where you are going to receive money. So please make sure if you have a physical location and a PO box that you are putting the PO box where you could actually receive mail or a check through the mail. Very important that we have a mailing address versus a physical address. And as I go through it, if there are any questions, please drop them in the chat, or when I get to the end, you can put your hand up and I'll be happy to answer any questions that I can. So moving on, box 7 will be blank. And then you will come down for taxpayer identification number. Here you're going to enter the EIN for, again, this is either going to be the rescue squad, city government, the county government, whichever is receiving the funding. And finally, very, very important, W-9s are required to be a wet ink signature. They cannot be electronically signed. So you will need to print out the form and sign it and date it. And then you will need to either take a picture, scan it to PDF, anyway, some way to get us a very clear image of the information for the W-9 so that it can be uploaded into Smart Simple as part of your application and potentially into Edison if you need to apply for a supplier ID this year. And because this is a new form, we shouldn't have any sort of issue, but historically, you do need to make sure it is dated within 1 year. Again, using a new form, all signatures should be within that year time frame. Are there any questions about the W-9, where to find it? Any particular questions about how to fill it out? Okay. All right, so now I'm going to switch over and talk about how to get a supplier ID. Michelle, unless you need me to pause.
I don't, Kimberly, but there is
Okay.
one question in chat.
Okay. Yes. What is the?
They ask, we're in the process of getting our 501c3 status back. I assume that we're currently operating only as a government entity, fire department. That is how we should complete this? Question mark. If they're getting a 501c3, they would not be a government entity. Is that not right, Kimberly?
That is correct. A 501c3 is not going to be a government entity. I think it would come down to when you're going to get your 501c3 status. And again, it's going to depend on who is going to be receiving the funds. So this may be a more in-depth question that we would need to capture and maybe discuss off the call.
Yeah, this is John Perry. It looks like they're asking about getting the status back from a 501c3. They might already have a 501c3, but now they are going to get it. They're trying to reinstate it. So that should be a question offline, I guess, with legal.
Well, I believe it's going to be how to get the 501c3 status back. I believe that's going to be a question for the Secretary of State's office potentially. There's several layers there, so yes. So Michelle, if someone on your team will capture which department, or if you could drop in the chat which department, we can connect with you to assist you with pointing you to all the right places. Okay, I'm going to move on. So the next part is related to Edison supplier IDs. And I want to start with if you have in any prior years received an award through the Rescue Squad grant, unless something has significantly changed about how you are structured or your name or something such as that, you likely have an existing supplier ID. You do not need to apply for a new supplier ID. This is once you have a supplier ID, you have a supplier ID. So this is not something you need to do. If you want to look on your contract, if you have your contract from a prior year, you can look on that and you will see your Edison vendor ID listed, and that is your supplier ID. Your supplier ID may also be recorded from previous applications inside Smart Simple. So you can also review there to see if you have one. If you are part of a city or county government, there is a very high chance that they are also already have a Edison supplier ID. So you need to reach out to the finance office, the accounting office, basically whoever will help you complete the W-9 likely knows what the supplier ID is as well. So I want to make sure as simply as possible, you guys those people know who needs to get a supplier ID and those that do not need to apply for a supplier ID. And if you start the process and it tells you a supplier ID already exists for this, when you put in your EIN, then you'll also know there is a supplier ID. And the SFMO team can assist you. You can email them if you get such a warning to provide you with what that supplier ID is. Okay, so when you are ready and if you do not fall into any of those previous categories, this is what you will need to do. And we have a link, and we also have the guide that I'm going to walk through. I'm actually going to walk you through Edison and show you how to apply for the supplier ID. But this resource guide is also available along with the blank W-9 and all the other registration resources that Michelle showed you earlier on the SFMO website. So, and you can always refer back again to the webinar as well to follow along. It is a pretty straightforward, simple process. I'm going to share my screen. So there is a link and it will take you to the Edison homepage, and you will click on Supplier Portal homepage. You will be presented these options. So you are going to select supplier or user registration. Next, again, if you do not have a supplier ID, you will click register now. Okay. We're going to select to start a new registration. We're going to click next. Okay. Here you will use the W-9 information that you have, and you are going to enter your EIN number here. Okay. Next, you are going to list the supplier name. This information, again, should match that W-9. Next, you're going to click on the magnifying glass, and basically it's going to ask you, is this an EIN or is this an SSN? Here, you're going to select 1 for EIN. Next, I told you once you complete your W-9, you're going to take that really, really clear photo, or you're going to scan it. And so now you're going to, wherever you have saved it, you are going to attach that document. So you're going to click attach. We're going to click add attachment. You're going to choose the file. Select the document. Click upload. Just going to bring back, I have it. There's no need to put a description. You're just going to click OK. All right. You will not need to do anything related to your remittance address. For products and services offered, this is a standard answer, so you are going to select 12 from the list. For other. For the next question, are any employees of the firm currently or previously employed by the state of Tennessee? You are going to, for this answer, you're going to select no. Even if you have an employee, this is related just to the grant. This is not for a vendor. So you'll select no. You will not enter the date of incorporation, state of incorporation, performance penalty. None of these will be filled out. Qualify. Again, a lot of these questions are tailored for vendors, and you guys are just for a grant program. So we're going to scroll all the way down. Under comments, it is very helpful if you type here, because you have not selected any of those or responded to any of those other questions, just put grant recipient. Delete that. You'll click next. Okay. Now it's going to ask for a primary address. Again, referring back to your W-9, this address will be the remittance address, the address on your W-9. This is where, again, you are going to be able to receive mail. Make sure, always the mailing address for these. Once you have filled in the address, just click next. Okay. Now here you will add a contact. All the fields that have the asterisk by them are required fields. You will also need to create a registered user ID. They're very specific about these, so your user ID must begin with TN at. I'm going to type TN at, I'm going to do K-test. Click OK. Now there is a contact listed for this supplier ID. Click Next. All right. Once we come to the end, or near the end, we're going to re-enter that email address just to make sure that it is correct. You will select to accept the terms, and then you can also click review if you want to go back and review any of the information that you submitted. If you just want to double check that address, if you just want to double check that phone number, you can always click review. Copy this. And then you will click submit. I'm not actually going to click submit because this is fake data. But once you click submit, the email address that you have used here will receive an email and you will be provided with a registration ID. One key point here is the registration ID is not your supplier ID. It is just purely your registration ID to let you know that it has been successfully submitted. You should allow about up to 10 business days for your registration to be approved. In the meantime, if there is something that the supplier maintenance team, as they're reviewing and approving them, if they find something they have a question about or need additional information on or need another copy of, they will reach out to this email address that you have provided to refine the submission. So please be sure to check your email. Also be sure check your junk and spam folders. Addresses can be flagged in there. Once you have your supplier ID, you can go back into Smart Simple and add that information. Just keep in mind, a supplier ID is not required for submitting a grant application. It is just part of the process, and it is required. Should you receive an award, you are required to have a supplier ID in order to receive payment. So as you're going through the process, make sure you're really focusing on your application and getting that W-9 as part of your application. The supplier ID portion can come secondary to you getting your grant application completed in order for submission. Are there any questions about supplier IDs, the Edison portal? Okay, Michelle?
Thank you, Kimberly. Okay, we did have a question. Where do you put the prior year's grant info? We actually have that uploaded into the system ourselves. So you don't have to put in your previous year's grant info. Okay. Do you see my screen? Because I'm not seeing it.
Yes.
Thank you, John.
Yep.
Okay. When you log in, this is the screen that will come up. And you notice in red, it says you're required to update your organizational profile. To do that, you click on this link. You click the edit button. And it wants you to put your legal entity name. So, and you have to put your address. It will give you the option to put like from what you had before. And then you only have to fill in the blanks. Okay. There are 3 tabs here. You'll click Additional Information. This is where you put in the Edison Supplier ID that Kimberly just talked about. And you're required to put your ownership control. If you're a nonprofit, you click this. And it asks you to upload a copy of a W-9 to this. I'm just moving something over at random. But once you've got it uploaded, you have to click that you certify all the attachments are current and up to date, and click the Save button. Anything that needs to be done will click here. It makes you say which grand division that you are in, East, Middle, or West. And if you have a question about that, call and we can help you with that. And you have to say what county that you are in. You can scroll down to that. Anything that comes up here, you can click on it and it will take you to the box that needs to be completed. Once you've completed it and you get that swirly, click on the Tennessee logo again and it takes you back to your home page. And you can click under the funding opportunity. This takes you into the current Rescue Squad grant. You click Apply Now. The first thing you do is click Save Draft. You have to click Save Draft on this page. Check that you have read this, and it will actually require you to click on it, and it will download it to you into your downloads. That is the rules for the grant. If you have questions about anything, go to this DGA and it lays out the entire program. After any page you do, click Save Draft. That way, if something happens and your browser closes, all your work up to that point is saved. And hit Continue. Okay. At this point, it asks you if you have updated your organizational profile. So even if it's not your first time applying, you will be required to review your organizational profile and just make sure that everything is up to date. Then to move forward, you click the Next button. Okay. The qualification criteria. To qualify, you have to verify that you have actual charter registration with the Secretary of State's office. If you are a part of city or county government, check that box, but you fall under their charter. You have to certify that you're recognized by a local government in Tennessee to provide rescue services. And this will come in later also. And you have to verify that your rescue squad has obtained the Edison Supplier ID and provided the completed W-9. As Kimberly said, even if you haven't received your Edison Supplier ID, as long as you have applied for it, go ahead and complete the application and submit it. So you would save draft. You can advance by either clicking on the Next button or by clicking the Next tab at the top. Okay, on this, the first question is, applicant meets all applicable training requirements for your incident response types. With TARS, or with rescue squads, it's a little different than it is for fire departments. You have training for certain things that you do and not for other things. So you click either yes or no on your training. Did your rescue squad receive funds from the program last year? Here, you say either yes or no. Does your rescue squad work mutual aid with all first responder agencies within the county? And that would be a yes or a no question. Does your rescue squad provide services 100% within Tennessee? If you are one of those border counties and you provide services, say in Tennessee and in Mississippi, or Tennessee and Kentucky, then your answer for that would be no. But if you provide everything strictly in the state, it's yes. Here, check all of the services that you provide. Your Category 1 type missions and incidents. This was what I was saying will be on the web page. And to show you what that looks like, okay, your mission and incident numbers are listed right here. When you click on them, it opens a PDF form with department names in alphabetical order. For fire departments, it will also list your FDID because we do have 5 department names that have multiple departments in different parts of the state using that same name. For this one, like Anderson County Rescue Squad, it will have RS there because it's strictly a rescue squad. This has your numbers for 2021, 22, and 23. Here it asks for the number of Category 1 type missions reported to TARS last year. This will be your 2023 number. The year prior will be 2022, and 2 years prior will be 2021. And I'm going to just do numbers at random. Once you've put those numbers in, click on Save Draft, and it will calculate your total. For expenditures, this also is 23, 22, and 21. And when you click Save Draft, it will total them. Your next page is your scope of service. This is really important. This is where you tell us what you're asking for, why you need it, and what your priorities are in order. If turnout gear or PPE is your most important priority, you tell us that. You tell us, you can list them, your priorities, in 1, 2, 3, but tell us what you're asking for. This is not an all or nothing grant. The selection committee will sometimes approve it item by item. They will sometimes approve certain quantities that are different from what you initially asked for. Tell us what you need the most and why. You know, if we have 5 new members that have no extrication gear at all, and this is very important, and that's your number one priority, tell us that. Tell us that it's they're new, you don't have anything for them. Once you get those completed, and you're limited to 1,000 words, And honestly, keep it as brief as you can while still giving us what your priorities are. And you click Save Draft. Okay. On the budget page, the first thing you do is click the plus sign. And it will give you instructions right here. The first thing there is you hit Save. And then you open up the budget details. The budget will be updated within the next week. There were a few items that were on the main budget that was approved by TARS that did not get put into this system. So I would ask that if you are wanting something that does not fit in here, and I will give you an example. On this first section, gear bags was one that got left off. In the extrication tools, there was other things. Wait until next week and this will be completely filled out. But if you need, say, pants, you click the add row. Tell us how many pants you have now. If you have 10 pants and you're wanting to replace 5 of them, how old are those 5 that you're replacing? You know, we don't care about the other 5. How old are these? Say these are 7 years old. And you don't need any new ones. Then that would be that item. If you were needing helmets and you have 10 in stock and you need to replace one of these, but you also need, and you have to tell us how old that helmet is. But if you need, say, 3 new ones, this is where you put it under number of new items requested. That is not replacement items. This is completely new to you items. And it changes your total number of items requested to 4. We have prices in here. We worked with a group from TARS on this, and we have prices that should be current for this spring. So if you have any questions about that, you can feel free to reach out to us. There are a lot of items listed in this budget. When we looked at the items that had been requested over the last 2 years, we actually had 57 pages of different items. So we worked with the TARS committee to cut this down to what is most used for rescue in the state. Fill those out. And if you want something, or if you need something that is not listed here, then you'll need to talk to the committee about possibly having it added next year. But there are items that cover everything. Once you have everything added in, say you need one more Sawzall. You have one in inventory, you need to replace it because it is 30 years old. Once you have everything in, you hit save and make sure that you have this swirl go. Sometimes there is a delay between when you click the button and when it happens, but make sure it shows you save complete. You can X out up there. Again, hit save draft. and it will populate what you requested on this sheet. You close that and hit Save Draft one more time. And it brings your full request out to this main page. The next page is your roster. We did something a little different this year. Everybody has always had to put their entire roster in every year. This year, what we did is we worked with the developers. They have moved it. You click on this, click Save Draft. You will put I don't know why it kicked me back to the front page, but if it does that, just click on the roster tab. It takes you right back there. Click the Open button. And you want to add or edit members. Okay. This gives you directions for whichever application you're completing. You're completing the Rescue Squad application. So it tells you what is a career member, what is a volunteer member, and it defines, the state minimum training is, does that member meet all the applicable training requirements for the incident response types that you have them handle. You will click the plus button, put a name in, you tell whether they are a career or a volunteer. This is one of the grant applications that is available to career fire departments. So there are some where you are going to have a lot of career. Does this person meet the state minimum requirement? Yes or no? If you have a TFACA, Tennessee Fire and Codes Academy, student ID, put that here. And add a row to do your next one. Whether they are career or volunteer. Once you have completed your roster, you click Save. You can close out there, and it puts your roster here. You have to click Submit on this page for your roster to be saved. And it asks, are you sure you want to proceed? Yes. Anytime anything comes up here red, it asks you to do it again. So you would just update, submit. If you don't need to add anybody new, and close your window. And you click this button to attest that your roster information is up to date. This is the last year you will have to list everybody on your department. Next year, when you apply for this grant, you will be able to open it and it will show you everybody that you have had entered, and you will be able to edit. If somebody has left the department, you can delete them. If somebody has come on, you can add them. You click Save Draft. The next page is your supporting documentation. This is very important. This is where you put in the W-9, you just drop it into this. and here, a letter of support from a local government to provide rescue services. What this is, to apply for this grant, you have to have a letter from the chief executive officer of your jurisdiction. If you are a city department, it would be your city mayor. If you're a county department, it would be your county executive or county mayor. But you would take that letter or that, you would upload it here. Once you have both of those completed, you certify that you have attached all required or requested documents. You save draft. And go to the last page, your organization contacts. What this asks is who is authorized to sign your grant. And you can click the lookup and it will pull up anybody that is registered with your department. You can just click that. Okay. You want to, it says if you sign below, you're affirming that everything that you have put in is correct and that you haven't made any false statements. Click that. I always do save draft, even though you're on the last page. And click submit. It will ask you, are you sure you want to proceed? Click yes. If everything is right, you will not get a red box up at the top and you will get application submission successful. If there is anything that your application needs, you will get a red box and there will be under it what needs to be done and a link that will take you back to that part of the application and you just complete it. At this point, you can either hit the home button or the logo. Either one will take you back to this main landing page. And you see now it shows one application submitted. And I can click on that and it shows that it is submitted and I can look at it, but can't change it. And then we will review them. If there is anything that we see that needs to be corrected, then we will send it back to you. And it will end up in this box where it says corrections requested. And you'll be able to click it and it will tell you in red at the top of the application exactly what needs to be completed. In addition to it turning up here, whatever email address you registered with, you will get an email sent to that email address telling you that your application has been sent back for corrections. And that is how you apply for this grant.